Men, the most unsettling position in a relationship isn't confronting obvious problems. It's sensing that people around you know something you don't, something they've collectively agreed to hide from you. When her family is protecting a secret, whether it's about her past, her present behavior, or circumstances affecting your relationship, their knowledge creates behavioral patterns they can't completely suppress. Before we dive in, hit subscribe, smash that like and hype button, and drop a comment if you've ever discovered a secret her family was protecting, and which signs from this list you wish you'd recognized earlier. Sign 1. They exchange meaningful glances when certain topics come up. When specific topics arise in conversation, her past, certain time periods, particular people, places she's been, or aspects of her current life, and you notice her family members exchanging quick glances with each other or with her, these meaningful looks reveal shared knowledge about sensitive information related to those topics. These glances are non-verbal communication happening right in front of you, coordinating how to handle topics that touch on the secret they're protecting. What this reveals? This reveals they're all aware of information related to those topics that you're not supposed to know. The glances serve multiple purposes: checking with each other about how much they should say, warning each other not to reveal too much, or looking to her for guidance on how to handle the topic. People who have nothing to hide don't need to non-verbally coordinate their responses to normal conversational topics. The need for these coordination glances reveals there's information they're collectively managing. Notice which specific topics trigger these exchanges. If mentions of her college years create glances between family members, there's something from that period they're protecting. If references to certain locations or people cause these nonverbal checks, those subjects are connected to the secret. If discussion of her recent activities triggers coordination glances, the secret involves her current life. The topics that create these reactions tell you where the hidden information exists. Watch the pattern of who looks at whom. If family members look to her before answering questions about her, they're checking whether she wants them to share information, revealing she controls what they disclose. If they look at each other before responding, they're checking whether the other person will reveal too much. If someone starts to speak and gets a warning glance from another family member, you're witnessing active information management in real time. Pay attention to the speed and subtlety of these exchanges. Quick glances that people think you won't notice are just as revealing as obvious ones. If you catch these exchanges in your peripheral vision, or notice family members trying to be subtle about their nonverbal communication, the attempt at subtlety itself confirms they're coordinating around information they don't want you detecting. Observe what happens after these glances. Often the person who is about to speak changes what they were going to say, provides a vague answer instead of a specific one, or deflects to a different topic. The glance served as a warning or coordination signal, and the changed behavior that follows reveals they adjusted their response to protect information. This before and after pattern shows you the information management in action. Why this matters: meaningful glances between family members reveal collective knowledge and coordination around information they're hiding from you. When multiple people need to coordinate their responses to maintain a secret, they create these nonverbal signals. You're witnessing the seams of their deception, the moments where they need to make sure they're all telling the same story or avoiding revealing too much. These glances are visible evidence that there's information being actively managed and kept from you. Sign 2. Their stories about her have suspicious gaps or inconsistencies. When her family tells stories about her life, her past, or her activities, and you notice conspicuous gaps, time periods they skip over entirely, vague descriptions where you'd expect specifics, or inconsistencies between different family members' versions of the same events, these narrative problems reveal they're editing information. The gaps and inconsistencies exist because maintaining secrets requires omitting truth, and different people managing the same secret don't always omit or alter details in exactly the same way. What this reveals? This reveals they're carefully curating what information they share about her, which requires leaving out pieces that would reveal the secret. When people tell honest stories, they include natural details and different people's versions of the same events align because they're all remembering the same reality. When people are protecting secrets, their stories have holes where the secret information should be, and inconsistencies emerge when different people make different choices about what to omit or how to describe events while avoiding truth. Notice which time periods or aspects of her life consistently lack detail. If stories about her young adult years are vague, despite that being a formative time, people usually remember well, something from that period is being hidden. If there's a specific year or period that no one seems to discuss, that gap itself is information. If questions about what she was doing during certain times get non-specific answers from multiple family members, they're collectively avoiding a topic. Watch for inconsistencies in timeline or details. If her mother says she was living at home during a certain period, but her sister mentions she had an apartment, if one family member describes her as being in a relationship, while another describes her as single during the same time frame, these contradictions reveal they're not all maintaining the same cover story perfectly. Inconsistencies expose deception because truth doesn't have multiple contradictory versions. Pay attention to how they respond when you ask for clarification about gaps or inconsistencies. If you point out that their stories don't align and they become defensive, uncomfortable, or dismissive rather than naturally clarifying the confusion, they're protecting the gap rather than correcting a misunderstanding. If they could simply explain the inconsistency, they would. Their discomfort with your questions reveals the inconsistency exists because they're hiding something. Observe whether she intervenes when family members are telling stories. If she interrupts to correct details, redirects the narrative when it's heading toward certain topics, or seems anxious when family members are sharing about her past, she's monitoring to make sure they don't accidentally reveal what they're supposed to hide. Her need to control the narrative reveals there's information she's afraid they'll expose. Why this matters: gaps and inconsistencies in family narratives about her are evidence of systematic information management. Truth creates coherent narratives with natural details. Deception creates gaps where hidden information should be, and inconsistencies where different people managing the secret make different editing choices. When you notice these patterns, you're seeing the structural weaknesses in their coordinated secret-keeping. The gaps tell you where the secret lies in her timeline, and the inconsistencies reveal that multiple people are working to hide the same information imperfectly. Sign 3. They become defensive. When you ask normal questions, when you ask ordinary getting-to-know-you questions about her background, her past, her experiences, or her life circumstances, and her family members respond with defensiveness, discomfort, or treating your questions as invasive when they're actually quite normal, their overreaction reveals that normal questions touch on sensitive information they're protecting. The mismatch between your reasonable question and their defensive response exposes that something about the topic makes them uncomfortable. What this reveals? This reveals that normal questions lead toward information they can't share honestly. When people have nothing to hide, they answer reasonable questions naturally without defensiveness. When people are protecting secrets, even innocent questions feel threatening because they might lead to areas where truth can't be told. Their defensive reaction to normal questions reveals that the questions touch on topics connected to the secret, making them impossible to answer honestly without revealing protected information. Notice which specific questions trigger defensive responses. If asking about where she went to college creates defensiveness, there's something about that time or place being hidden. If questions about her past relationships make family members uncomfortable or defensive, there's relationship history they're protecting. If inquiries about her current job or living situation provoke defensive reactions, there are current circumstances being concealed. The defensive topics map directly to where secrets exist. Watch how they frame their defensiveness. Often they'll turn it around on you. Why do you need to know that? Or, why are you interrogating her? Or, that's really personal, when the question was actually quite ordinary. By making you seem invasive for asking normal questions, they deflect from the real issue. They can't answer honestly without exposing what they're hiding. The deflection itself is revealing. Pay attention to whether their defensiveness is consistent across family members. If multiple people react defensively to the same topics or types of questions, they've been collectively instructed or have collectively agreed that certain areas are off-limits. This coordination reveals shared knowledge of what needs to be protected. Different people becoming defensive about the same topics confirms there's specific information they're all hiding. Observe the difference between how they respond to questions about neutral topics versus sensitive ones. If they're happy to discuss her career achievements, but defensive about questions regarding her college years. If they freely share about her hobbies, but become uncomfortable discussing her living situation, the contrast reveals which areas contain secrets. The topics they protect through defensiveness are the topics where hidden information exists. Why this matters? Defensive reactions to normal questions are red flags that something is being hidden. Reasonable questions should receive reasonable answers. When reasonable questions trigger defensiveness, discomfort, or accusations that you're being invasive, the overreaction reveals that normal inquiry threatens exposure of protected information. Your reasonable questions aren't the problem. Their inability to answer honestly without revealing the secret is the problem, and their defensiveness is how they manage that inability. Sign 4. They know things about you. They shouldn't know yet. When her family members reference information about you, your life, your work, your past, or your preferences that you haven't shared with them yet, and that she shouldn't know to tell them, this reveals she's been discussing you extensively behind your back. While some discussion of a new partner is normal, knowing detailed private information reveals she's sharing about you in ways that suggest either vetting you against secret criteria or preparing them for something they need to know about your relationship dynamic. What this reveals? This reveals she's been having detailed conversations about you with her family that go beyond normal new relationship sharing. When family members know private details you haven't shared, she's been extensively discussing you, possibly vetting whether you're safe to bring into knowledge of the secret or preparing them for how to interact with you while maintaining the deception. The level of detail they have about you reveals the intensity and purpose of conversations happening about you behind your back. Notice what specific types of information they have. If they know details about your financial situation, they might be assessing your stability related to secret circumstances. If they know about your past relationships or trust issues, she might be preparing them to maintain deception with someone who's watchful. If they know your schedule and habits in detail, they might need that information to coordinate secret keeping around your presence. Watch how they reference information they shouldn't have. If they casually mention things as if you told them directly when you didn't, they've been so thoroughly briefed that they've forgotten you weren't the source. If they accidentally reveal knowledge, then seem to realize they shouldn't have known that information. You're catching them in the moment of exposing how much they actually know about you. These slips reveal extensive behind-the-scenes discussion. Pay attention to whether the information they have seems strategic. If they know exactly which topics to avoid with you, which subjects you're sensitive about, or what will make you suspicious, she's briefed them on how to interact with you while hiding information. This strategic knowledge reveals they've been coached on managing their interactions with you to maintain the secret. Observe if they seem to have discussed you as a problem to manage rather than a person to welcome. If their knowledge of you feels like intelligence gathering rather than family getting to know a new member. If they seem to have analyzed your personality for vulnerabilities or watchfulness, you're being studied as part of secret management. The clinical quality of their knowledge reveals you're being assessed as a threat to their secret rather than welcomed as family. Why this matters? When family members know more about you than they should, it reveals you've been a topic of extensive behind-the-scenes discussion. This level of discussion suggests they're preparing to maintain deception around you, assessing whether you're a threat to the secret, or coordinating how to manage your presence while keeping information hidden. Normal family interest in a new partner doesn't result in detailed knowledge of private information. The depth of what they know reveals the strategic purpose of their information gathering about you. Sign 5. Someone almost tells you, then gets stopped or stops themselves. When you witness moments where a family member starts to say something, then suddenly stops mid-sentence after a look from someone else, after seeming to remember something, or after visible internal conflict, these near revelations reveal that at least one person in the family is uncomfortable keeping the secret and occasionally comes close to breaking. These moments show the internal pressure secrets create and how close the information is to coming out. What this reveals? This reveals that maintaining the secret creates enough moral discomfort or practical difficulty that people struggle with keeping it, resulting in moments where they almost reveal truth before catching themselves or being stopped. Not everyone is equally comfortable with deception. Some family members feel guilty keeping secrets from you, feel the secret is unfair, or simply struggle with the cognitive load of managing hidden information. These near breaks reveal the fault lines in the collective secret keeping. Notice who almost breaks and who stops them. Often it's older family members, or those with less stake in the secret who almost tell, while those more invested in maintaining the secret intervene to stop them. If her mother almost says something, then her sister shoots her a look that stops her. The sister is more invested in keeping the secret. If a family member stops themselves after starting to speak, they're having internal conflict between honesty and loyalty. Watch what topics trigger these near revelations. If someone almost tells you something when discussing her past, the secret relates to history. If near breaks happen during conversations about current circumstances, the secret involves present situations. The contextual triggers for these moments tell you what subjects the secret involves. The topics that create impulses to tell are the topics where the hidden information exists. Pay attention to the body language during these moments. Often you'll see visible conflict. The person's mouth opens to speak, they hesitate, their expression shows struggle, then they shut down the impulse to tell. This visible internal battle reveals genuine moral discomfort with the deception. People comfortable with secrets don't show this conflict. The struggle you're witnessing is between their conscience, pushing them to tell, and their loyalty, making them keep quiet. Observe the aftermath of these near revelations. Often there's tension between family members after someone almost told, quiet anger, nervous energy, or pointed looks that communicate, you almost blew it. If you sense tension or conflict among family members after these moments, you're seeing the internal strain that secrets create within families. The person who almost told threatened the collective deception, and others are upset about the close call. Why this matters? Near revelations are evidence that the secret creates enough discomfort that it's constantly at risk of exposure. These moments show you that not everyone is comfortable keeping the secret, that the information wants to come out, and that the deception is difficult to maintain. When you witness these near breaks, understand that the truth is under pressure and may eventually surface. The person who almost told might eventually actually tell, especially if you create a safe space for that honesty. Sign 6. They're overly interested in what you know or suspect. When her family members seem unusually interested in what you know about certain topics, what she's told you about her past or current life, whether you've noticed anything unusual, or what your concerns or suspicions are. This interrogation reveals they're assessing what you know to determine whether the secret is at risk of exposure. Their interest isn't friendly curiosity. It's information gathering about whether you're a threat to the secret they're protecting. What this reveals? This reveals they need to know what you know in order to maintain the deception effectively. When people are protecting secrets, they need to understand what the deceived person knows so they can calibrate their continued deception appropriately. If you know nothing, they continue as normal. If you're suspicious, they need to know what triggered suspicion so they can address it. If you've discovered pieces of truth, they need to know which pieces so they can manage the narrative around them. Notice the specific questions they ask you. If they ask what she's told you about her past, they're checking whether she's shared the true version or the cover story with you. If they ask whether you've met certain people or been to certain places, they're assessing whether you've encountered contexts where the secret might be exposed. If they ask whether you've noticed anything strange or concerning, they're checking whether you're close to discovering the secret. Watch how they respond to your answers. If you say you don't know much about certain areas of her life and they seem relieved, they're relieved you don't have information that would reveal the secret. If you mention concerns or suspicions and they quickly dismiss them or provide explanations, they're doing damage control to prevent your suspicions from leading to discovery. Their reactions to what you know reveal what they're trying to protect. Pay attention to whether these inquiries feel like interrogation or genuine interest. Genuine interest in what you know about a family member feels warm and curious. Strategic information gathering feels clinical and focused. If conversations feel like you're being debriefed or assessed rather than naturally getting to know each other, they're gathering intelligence about what threatens their secret rather than building relationship with you. Observe if they report back to her after talking with you. If you notice that after you've discussed certain topics with family members, she brings up those same topics with you, or seems to know what you discussed with them, they're reporting your answers back to her. This communication chain reveals coordinated information management, where they're all working together to monitor what you know and control what you discover. Why this matters? When family members are unusually interested in what you know, they're engaging in counterintelligence to protect a secret. Normal families aren't concerned with monitoring what their daughter's partner knows about her. Families protecting secrets need to constantly assess whether you're getting close to truth so they can adjust their deception accordingly. Their interest in what you know reveals they're actively managing to keep you from knowing something specific, and they need to monitor your knowledge to maintain that management effectively.